The moment you open your mouth to defend yourself, you've already lost. Not the argument, not the debate. Something deeper, something most people never get back. Think about the last time someone doubted you. Maybe it was a colleague, a friend, a person whose opinion shouldn't have mattered, but somehow did. And what did you do? You explained. You clarified. You laid out your reasoning like evidence in a courtroom, waiting for them to nod, to understand, to finally see you clearly. They didn't. And somehow, after all your words, they respected you less than before you spoke. This isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. There is a law operating beneath the surface of every human interaction, ancient, invisible, and ruthless. It has nothing to do with fairness, nothing to do with who is right. It operates purely on perception, and it punishes those who forget that power is not about truth. Power is about what people believe. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago, in a world of poison, betrayal, and shifting alliances. He watched princes rise and fall. He observed what separated those who commanded rooms from those who were devoured by them. And what he discovered wasn't about strategy in the conventional sense. It was about something far more primal. The psychology of how human beings assigned value to other human beings. Here is the uncomfortable truth he uncovered. People do not respect what they understand completely. They respect what remains slightly beyond their grasp. When you explain yourself, you are handing someone a complete map of your interior. Every motivation, every insecurity, every calculation made visible. And the moment a person can fully see you, fully understand your reasons, something shifts. The mystery dissolves. And with mystery gone, so goes a certain kind of authority. This is not philosophy. This is neurology. Human beings evolved in environments where the unknown demanded caution. The stranger whose intentions were unclear was given more careful attention than the familiar face. That ancient wiring never left us. We are still, beneath our rationality, creatures who instinctively assign significance to what we cannot fully explain. The person in the room who speaks least is studied most. Think about the people who have commanded your attention throughout your life. Not the loudest ones, not the most articulate. The ones who made you slightly uneasy with how little they revealed. The ones who smiled at insults without flinching. The ones who declined to justify their choices and somehow made that silence feel like a complete sentence. You felt something around them that you couldn't name. That feeling was not admiration exactly. It was closer to caution. And caution is the first cousin of respect. Now think about the moment you watched someone over-explain themselves. A politician caught in a scandal who went on television to clarify. A friend who texted you 3 paragraphs about why they'd been distant. A colleague who sent an email justifying a decision nobody had questioned yet. What happened to your perception of them in that moment? Even if their reasons were valid, especially if their reasons were valid, something softened. Their authority became approachable, and approachable is not the same as respected. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should never reveal his inner workings to those beneath him. Not because transparency is evil, but because the moment you explain your reasoning, you invite judgment. And judgment is the beginning of erosion. Here is where it gets darker. When you explain yourself to someone who already doubts you, you are not changing their mind. You are feeding their doubt. You are signaling that their opinion has the power to move you. That their perception of you is something you feel compelled to correct. And people who can move you, people whose judgment changes your behavior, are people who hold power over you. The moment they sense that power, they use it. Not always consciously, but always inevitably. This is the trap that intelligent, self-aware people fall into most often. They believe that if they just articulate the right thing, in the right way, with enough nuance and honesty, they will be understood. They have faith in clarity. They believe that truth, when spoken well, produces justice. It doesn't. Human beings do not primarily respond to truth. They respond to energy. They respond to posture. They respond to what your willingness to explain communicates about how you feel about yourself. A man who never explains himself says, without words, My decisions do not require your validation. My choices exist independent of your comprehension. And something in the human brain reads that signal and interprets it as, this person operates on a level I don't have full access to. That inaccessibility becomes a kind of gravity. People orbit it. But there is a layer beneath even this that most people never examine. Why do we explain ourselves in the first place? It is never entirely about the other person. When you trace the impulse back to its root, you find something raw and slightly painful. We explain ourselves because we cannot tolerate the possibility that someone sees us inaccurately, because an uncorrected false impression feels like a threat to our identity. We explain ourselves because we are afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being underestimated, afraid that if we stay silent, the wrong version of us will calcify in someone else's mind. Machiavelli would say that this fear is not the real problem. The real problem is letting others know you have it. Because the people watching you, and people are always watching whether you realize it or not, they are not evaluating your reasons. They are evaluating your relationship with yourself. They want to know, does this person need me to see them correctly? And if the answer is yes, they become less interested, less careful, less respectful. Need is not magnetic. Certainty is. Here is the shift. Here is the thing that changes everything. The most powerful move available to you in any moment of social pressure is the move that costs you the most psychologically. Letting the silence stand. Letting the misunderstanding exist. Letting someone walk away with an incomplete picture and choosing, deliberately, not to chase them with the corrections. This is not passivity. This is not weakness disguised as dignity. This is the recognition that your identity does not live in other people's perceptions of you. It lives in what you do after the conversation ends. Machiavelli understood that the prince who ran after the crowd to explain his edicts was already no longer a prince. The moment you need the crowd's understanding to feel secure, you have made the crowd your sovereign. And there is one final truth here. One that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The people who want you to explain yourself are rarely asking because they want to understand you. They are asking because explanation is submission. Because the moment you justify yourself to someone, you have acknowledged their right to evaluate you, and that acknowledgement is what they were really after. The question was never about understanding. The question was about power. So the next time you feel the pull, the urgent, almost physical need to clarify, to defend, to make someone see you accurately, pause. Ask yourself not what you want to say, but what the act of saying it communicates. Ask yourself whether the explanation is for them or for the version of yourself that cannot survive being misunderstood. And then consider the possibility that the most eloquent thing you can do is nothing. That your silence is not an absence. It is a statement. That the person who requires no explanation from you is the person you're afraid of. And the person who gives no explanations without apology is the person others become afraid of. You don't have to be understood by everyone. You only have to be certain in yourself. The ones who matter will sense it. The ones who don't, let them wonder.